Today, our wheels will turn once more on the Hajong Loop, as we continue our incredible journey into the second day of our adventure circuit of the ancient, rugged and majestic Hajong Karst Plateau. We began our journey in the city of Hajong, and traversed the Haven's Gate and crossed the pine forests. A route where the mountains whispered promises of adventure. And after a restful night here in the quiet town of Yên Minh, which is cradled by forest-covered hills and morning mist, we are now saddled our bikes and pressing deeper into the untamed wild. Ahead lies the raw, and still unbroken heart of the northern Hajong, a land where the road becomes a ribbon of defiance, with trails that clinging to sheer mountain cliffs, and carving through sometimes thick and dark stormy clouds. This will be no ordinary stretch of asphalt, it is the path to Dong Van and Mio Vac, a section where every bend reveals a new face of the rough and rugged earth. We shall ride through ancient karst valleys and wind-swept ridges, past stone-walled villages where time lingers in the folds of embroidered skirts and the smoke of morning fires. Then as we pierce deeper into the unknown, the air will grow thinner, and the silence will get more intense. Finally, like a myth unfolding, we will arrive at Dong Van, a highland town which is steeped in history, a place where the French villas and the Hmong markets still echo with stories of resilience. But wait, the journey is far from over, as from Dong Van, the road dares upward into the heavens of the Mã Pí Lèng Pass, which is the famous dragon spine of the Hajong Karst Plateau. There, the Han Phuc Road will cling to vertical cliffs. Suspended above the emerald thread of the Song Nho Quế River, and slicing through the earth in the legendary Tu Sản Canyon, a gaping gorge which is Vietnam's deepest abyss, and one which is most feared by the indigenous ethnic groups. It will be there, where we shall stop, breathe, and marvel at the grandeur of this amazingly unique landscape before we descend, and spiraling down towards the Highland crossroad of heritage, which is the town of Tt Mio Vac, a city nestled in the embrace of the Pa Vai Valley, where limestone walls cradle a village that is filled of peach blossom rooftops and the souls of the Hmongs, which are one of Vietnam's largest ethnic minority groups, known for their vibrant culture, their highland resilience, and their deep connection to the mountainous landscapes. So relax, fasten your seatbelt, as this will not just be any ride, no, it will be a trail that is etched in wonders, memories, and the primal backbone of the rugged mountain system, which is uniquely located here in the remote frontier region of Hajong. And as we ride up the switchback road which takes us away from Yên Minh and into the heart of the geological plateau park of Dong Van, which is one of the most cinematic stretches of the Hajong Loop, as it takes us to the Ki Lia panorama and then over the Mã Pí Lèng Pass. Let us have a quick stop here at the first picturesque place, here at the coffee shop of the Doc Vine Pit Stop, which is a practical resting place with a great view over the Yên Minh Valley. The Doc Vine Pit Stop Coffee House is a well-known rest stop offering a convenient break with several unexpected amenities, all in mind for us travelers navigating the mountainous roads of Hajong, as it is positioned here on a high curve on the steep slope of the Doc Vine ascend. The pit stop includes a coffee shop serving Vietnamese-style drinks and light refreshments, a swimming pool, which is rare in this region and provides a chance to cool off while enjoying the scenery. Moreover, it comes with a panoramic terrace which is overlooking the Yên Minh Valley, and which is offering us a clear view of the surrounding karst formations and the winding roads below. The open-air design and elevated position makes this place the ideal spot for a short break, as well as for a photo point, and a launch pad for drone footage that will certainly look very scenic. Now entering the Hue Vinh Valley, which is also known as the Tham Ma Valley, as it is named after the Tham Mã Slope, a valley which is famous for its serpentine road and panoramic viewpoints, as well as a historic place which was used to test the strength of horses. The area is dotted with small Hmong villages, terraced fields, and limestone ridges, and a favorite for drone photography and roadside stops. From here, the road continues towards Sà Phìn and Pho Chau and eventually reaching the ancient town of Dong Van. It is a stretch which is one of the most visually striking parts here on the loop, as it is here where we riders begin to feel the full scale and beauty of the northern Hajong Highlands.
Isn't it beautiful?
Wow, what an incredible view overlooking the Hue Vin Valley from here on the QL4C road. Don't you also think that it truly offers us a stunning panoramic vista and making it one of the most unexpectedly serene and cinematic stretches we have encountered so far along the Hajong Loop? Climbing now the Tham Mã Slope, an ascent which was used by the local Hmong communities to test the strength of horses. Farmers would come here, and lead their horses up the incline, and if the animal could reach the top without stopping, it was considered strong enough for work in the highlands. This tradition gave the slope its name. Tham means to test, and Ma simply means horse. After the winding ascent we reached the road crests at the top of the Tham Mã Pass, which is a favorite hotspot not only among motorbike riders and photographers, but also for countless other visitors because it is known for its serpentine curves and sweeping views of the valley below. Here at the summit, we can find the coffee house and Villa Tham Mã, a roadside rest stop that blends comfort with scenery and makes one think of being somewhere up in the beautiful Swiss mountains. The villa is often overcrowded, like we can see today, because it not only offers refreshments and shaded seating, but also a stunning panoramic view from its wide terrace, which makes it a natural pausing point before continuing deeper into the Đồng Văn Karst Plateau.
Mass tourism. Mass tourism. There you go. Whew.
Is it not fascinating looking at these dramatic limestone formations which reach to an altitude of up to 1,700 meters, and forming jagged peaks and deep canyons that define the landscape here? I learned that these cliffs are the result of hundreds of millions of years of geological activity, shaped by tectonic uplift and erosion, making the terrain not only visually striking, but also ecologically and culturally significant, as the high elevation and the porous limestone is supporting unique plant life and traditional farming methods that have been adapted to the rocky soil here. And as we continue beyond the villa and the Tham Mã Pass, the road narrows and dips into a limestone canyon where the village of Sa Lung A is tucked away. The hamlet is part of the Pho Chau commune, and home to the ethnic Hmong families who live in traditional stone-walled houses surrounded by narrow and steep terraced fields. The secluded setting and dramatic cliffs make it a compelling stop for those interested in cultural immersion and dramatic landscape photography. This segment of the journey also marks the transition from the adrenaline of mountain passes to the quiet rhythm of highland village life. It is here where geology, history, and human resilience converge, and offering us a deeper understanding of Hajong's multi-layered identity.
That's how it looks on an ordinary petrol pump on an ordinary Sunday. We're slowly getting there.
Isn't this a sweet moment? I just had to film the cute Hmong toddler being wrapped onto his mother's back with a traditional Hmong woven fabric holder, and swinging gently from left to right, like a ragdoll as she dismounted her motorbike to open the seat for a timely petrol refill at the crowded Petrolimex station here in Pho Chau.
Hello. Full? Yes, I'm okay. And you?
No,
No, okay. Too busy today, huh? Oh my God, so many people, huh? A good business.
Now we are passing through the town of Pho Chau, a place which is more than a scenic stop here on the Hajong Loop, as this town is a highland commune that blends cultural depth with logistical importance by connecting the frontier region. Located between Yên Minh and Dong Van, it sits at the heart of the Đồng Văn Karst Plateau Geopark, and is surrounded by towering limestone cliffs and traditional Hmong architecture. The weekly Pho Chau market is one of the region's most vibrant gatherings and is held on every Sunday. It draws ethnic Hmong, Dao, and Phu Phio communities from the countless surrounding villages. Locals here will arrive in colorful traditional dress to trade their textiles, livestock, herbal remedies, and their indigenous local produce. For travelers like us, it is a rare chance to witness the authentic highland commerce and social life in full swing, as it is held without the tourist gloss, just the real and pure highland interactions. But Pho Chau is not just a cultural hub, but it is also a strategic junction. Just beyond the market area is a narrow road which branches off toward Javan, a remote village in the Phu Lung commune, which is located near to the Chinese border. This detour leads riders through steep canyons and isolated hamlets, and is offering a glimpse into frontier life where only a few tourists will ever venture. The route to Javan is rugged and less developed, but it rewards those who take it, as it is filled with dramatic landscapes and guarantees encounters with ethnic minority communities, a fraternity which is still living in some of the most remote corners of northern Vietnam, and this could certainly be an interesting path for those who are seeking a lot of insight depth over the comfortable convenience. In short, this area here is where the Hajong Loop once again shifts its gears, namely from the cultural immersions of its communities, to going way up to the far-off borderland exploration of the lesser-seen frontiers. And so, whether we are interested in market scenes or navigating toward the Javan hamlet, this commune here offers us both, the interesting story of the highlands and the deep substance of its lesser understood culture. As we are now ascending toward the Chin Koan Pass, which is locally also known as the Dak Chin Koan, or the 9-turn ramp, and which twists through time and beyond, as the road really becomes a ribbon of switchbacks which are tight, with deliberate curves that cling to the limestone cliffs like a serpent coiled in motion, and which reveals the landscape in stages to us. Originally, the old road was carved into the mountainside by manual labor during the French colonial period, and engineered to connect the remote highland villages with the administrative centers of Dong Van and Meo Vac. Its 9 distinct hairpin turns were a feat of civil engineering at that time, and allowing carts, horses, and later the motorbikes to scale the steep terrain without the need for tunnels or more invasive construction. Here each curve offers a new perspective, with sometimes sheer drops into the valley, and other times with a sudden reveal of terraced maize fields or a cluster of stone houses perched improbably on the slope, and this is exactly what is turning every bend into a new surprise. And so, even as of today, the road remains a vital artery for local communities and a rite of passage for us travelers who are navigating the northern loop of the Hajong Karst Plateau. From here at the Tui Si Hajong observation deck, we can clearly overlook the ramp of the Dak Chin Koan, as the landscape unfolds like a living topographic map, showing us the 9 dramatic switchbacks which are etched into the mountainside, and framed by the jagged limestone peaks which are tightly hugged by the terraced fields that ripple seamlessly into the horizon. We are now passing the Fo Chao Peach Blossom Viewpoint, which is overlooking a valley where clusters of earth and hamong houses are sitting quietly among blooming peach trees and hand-built stone fences. The elevated view here will reveal a seasonal transformation, when fields and rooftops will be softened by pink blossoms on the peach trees, and framed by the rugged contours of the rocky karst highland terrain. Reaching now the crest of the Dak Chin Koan Pass, a mountain gateway which is over 1,400 meters above the sea level, and revealing a dramatic view of the highland of the Hajong landscape which now opens toward the valley of Sung La, disclosing a setting of a soap opera where clusters of hamong homes sit among buckwheat fields and peach trees, immersed into a softening terrain that now rolls into a flower basin of quiet cultivation and rich cultural depth. This certainly looks like another threshold of the always changing tapestry of the Dong Van district, where the ruggedness of the Karst Plateau suddenly begins to give way and leading into a more settled rhythms of the quieter village life. No wonder that Sung La is often called the Rose of the Plateau, as it is not just scenic, it is also a living valley where generations have farmed, traded, and preserved their abundant indigenous traditions. And now as we roll into the Sung La Valley, the road narrows and curls down like a ribbon which is laid gently across the highlands. And look at this, just beyond the bends, the Lung Kam cultural and travel village is emerging, not really with grandeur, but still impressing and with a quiet insistence. The stone houses here, with their earthen walls stand shoulder to shoulder, their tiled roofs look weathered by mountain winds and generations of hamong footsteps. Even though, one might think this is a museum village, it is not, as it breathes and pulsates with real daily life. Lung Kam is truly a village where ancient traditions still hold their ground. Elderly women in indigo-dyed skirts sit weaving hemp fabric in shaded courtyards, while children dart between the buckwheat flower fields. The pretty flowers here are tiny and pink-white blossoms and dot the valley like confetti tossed by nature itself. And just a few steps from the village's central path, the scent of simmering broth beckons me. So, let us have our early lunch here at Na Hang E Tua, which is marked as the Na Hang Tong Tai on Google Maps, and which is a modest and clean restaurant in appearance but generous in spirit and serving. Inside, the air is warm with steam and spice and the beef pho arrives in a deep ceramic bowl, its surface glistening with scallions and coriander. The broth is really rich, and layered with star anise and slow-cooked marrow. Below the slices of beef that float onto the surface, it is yummy, tender and fragrant. And as we are leaving the village of Lung Cam, it is worth to mention that this location is also the home to several Hmong families, clans who have opened their homes and workshops to visitors, where we can observe traditional weaving techniques passed down through generations, such as the hemp fibers which are spun into a thread, then dyed with indigo, and woven into intricate patterns that tell the stories of ancestry, harvest, and spiritual belief. Moreover, this is also the village which gained national attention as the filming location for the Vietnamese story of Trien Chua Pheo, and the house featured in the film still stands, and is preserved as a cultural site. After climbing out of Lung Cam, the road crests a quiet elevation, and revealing another highland saddle that feels both remote and intimate as it will lead us towards the town of Lung Hoa A. We can clearly notice that the limestone here folds are softening briefly, and the air carries the nice scent of dry grass and the distant fragrance of wood smoke, which is lingering through the valley like a veil of aromatic incense odor, an aroma that is softly entering our smell receptors as we traverse the unique corridor within the Đồng Văn Karst Plateau where the interesting geology and the unique culture intertwine. As already mentioned, ahead lies the hamlet of Lung Hoa A, which is nestled here within the commune of Sà Phìn. Though modest in size, it sits at an altitude of nearly 1,500 meters above the sea level and is offering us a sweeping view of the surrounding karst formations. The terrain here is a lived-in landscape where Hmong families mainly tend to maize fields, and where the stone walls are marking countless generations of settlement. We just passed the hamlet of Lung Hoa A and Thon Lung Hoa by here in Sà Phìn and arriving now at the rocky observation point which sits at the center of the Đồng Văn Plateau. It is surrounded by jagged limestone formations, and overlooks two distinct valleys, one is green and cultivated, the other more barren and quieter. I have been told by the locals that once upon a time this spot here marked an old boundary between their two communities, but as of today, it serves as a natural viewpoint for travelers which are exploring the dramatic and stunning terrain of the plateau. And as we ride even more eastward, the road once again begins to dip and curve toward the valleys of Lung Tau, which is a neighboring commune and known for its quiet beauty and traditional architecture. The upcoming valley is also not a tourist highlight and not marked by grand monuments, but by the rhythm of daily life, which is a connective tissue between the legends and offers something rare. It provides us with a moment where we can observe the stunning surroundings, absorb the unique tradition, and continue full of new impressions while riding towards our next waypoint. And as we arrive at the T-junction of the market of Sà Phìn, which is also known as the Cho Sà Phìn, and which sits at a strategic T-junction where the national road QL4C meets the Duong Cot Co Quoc Gia Road, the road which is leading north and into the Lung Tau Valley and toward Vietnam's northernmost flagpole, which is located at Lũng Cú, and almost right next to the Chinese border. And so, it is this location here which makes the market a natural gathering point for traders, travelers, and ethnic communities which are navigating the karst plateau of Đồng Văn. It is also a historically important place because just steps away from the market is the Dinh Vua Mio, or better known to us tourists as the Palace of the Hmong King, a historical landmark that draws visitors interested in the region's political and architectural heritage. The Dinh Vua Mio was a political and cultural stronghold for the Hmong people during the early 20th century. It was built by Vong Chin Duc between 1919 and 1928. The palace symbolized the Vong family's wealth and influence, especially through their control of the opium trade and regional governance under French colonial rule. Its architecture blends Chinese, French, and Hmong styles, and with 64 rooms which are arranged in a fortified layout, it served both as a residential and as a defensive fortress. During its heyday, the palace hosted colonial officers and functioned as a semi-autonomous seat of power, negotiating Hmong interests in a very politically volatile era. We are currently overlooking the valley from Kha Phin Lung, which is a highland hamlet perched above the folds of Ha Giang's northern frontier, and the road from this point to Tia Sung will be cutting through one of the most remote and culturally rich stretches of the Lung Tau commune located here in the Đồng Văn district. It is not a fast ride, but it is a segment that demands patience and respect from us riders, as the narrow, winding paths hug limestone ridges and descend into terraced valleys which are shaped by generations of Hmong families. Kha Phin Lung itself is scattered across rocky slopes, where homes blend into the terrain. We riders share the road with livestock, schoolchildren, and villagers hauling maize or firewood. I learned that morning mist often obscures visibility, but when it lifts, as we can see right now, the views reveal the dramatic contours of the Nho Quế River basin, a waterway which is feeding this area, and which lies far below us. This is the hamlet of Mu Jo Tung here in Lung Tau, which is a quiet Hmong settlement tucked between limestone ridges. It is a place where stone fences and maize fields mark the rhythm of the daily life. It is a cool location to make a pause and to take in the layered terraces and the deep silence that defines this very remote corner of Hajong. We already passed Tia Sung and are now at the Pa Coffee Shop. From here we continue deeper into the Lung Tau Valley via the Duong Kot Ko Kwak Jia Road, a strategic detour from the main QL4C route. This road guides us travelers into the northernmost reaches of Hajong, and revealing key cultural and geological landmarks which are often missed by those sticking strictly to the loop. Though we are not going all the way northward to the Lũng Cú flagpole, which is the symbolic northernmost point of Vietnam, we still will ride on one of the road's most notable segments, which leads us toward Ma So, a quiet enclave surrounded by limestone ridges and traditional Hmong settlements, and which is also the waypoint that leads to the flagpole. Reaching now the hamlet of Ma So, also located up here in the Lung Tau commune, which is a quiet enclave where traditional Hmong homes sit along steep and stone-lined paths. This hamlet is not a tourist hub, however during the Tam Giak Mok, which is the buckwheat flower season, the surrounding slopes bloom in soft pinks and purples, and adding a seasonal charm to the stark karst landscape, and this is exactly what makes it an ideal stop for all of us who are seeking the authentic encounters and quiet observation of the unique highland life up here. After passing Ma So, we noticed that the scenic Duong Kot Ko Kwak Jia Road suddenly became also the provincial road number DT182B. As we relentlessly winding through the steep karst terrain, the quiet Hmong villages, and the dramatic upcoming viewpoint of the Kelia panorama outlook, while we are still continuing our ride to the northeast and toward the upcoming T junction, the waypoint which is then leading to the Lũng Cú flagpole. We are now arriving at the Kelia Panorama viewpoint. also known as the Diem Ngam Ton Kan Kilia, and which is much more than just an outlook. It is a turning point in our journey through Hajong's northern frontier, as it is perched above the jagged limestone formations and deep-cut valleys, and is offering us with a sweeping views of the Miala and Kilia gorges, where the underground streams and the cone-shaped karsts reveal the geological complexity of the Đồng Văn Karst Plateau. Here we find ourselves also at the natural crossroads. To the north, the road will climb toward the Lũng Cú flagpole, Vietnam's symbolic northernmost point, and to the east, it will wind toward the city of Đồng Văn, and passing through cultivated slopes, remote Hmong hamlets and historical sites. The terrain here is steep and dramatic, but the reward is unmatched, as it gives us a panoramic window into the highlands' raw beauty and the cultural depth of this unmatched and lesser-known highland region. As we descend from our northern detour, having journeyed from Ca Phin Lung to Kilia, we now face a steep, winding, and narrow descent toward the hamlet of Chuan Shin Nai. This is a passage the main QL4C highway cannot offer, as it is a route through untouched hamlets, cultivated slopes, and stone-lined paths that speak of heritage and endurance, guiding us toward the town of Tran Dong Van via the lesser-known road numbered as the DT-182B. Though we are not continuing all the way to the flagpole today, the DT-182B is far more than a connector. It is a cultural corridor that links the Din Vua Mio Palace in Sà Phìn with the Lũng Cú flagpole and the historic heart of Đồng Văn. It forms a cohesive route that blends geography, symbolism, and lived tradition, making it, for those of us willing to ride beyond the loop, a path that offers something rare. It provides the intimate access to the soul of the Hajong region. We are now somewhere near the Khoi Panorama Hotel, just before reaching the hamlet of Chuan Shin Nai, and it is here that the steep descent begins to ease. We already can feel that the road levels out slightly, the landscape softens, the pastures grow greener, and the stone fences give way to open fields. The air feels lighter, and we are offered one final, but sweeping glimpse into the Kilia Valley, where the jagged limestone formations and deep gorges stretch into the far distance. This quiet pause in the terrain feels like a farewell from the highlands, at least for now, as we have a last look at their raw beauty before the road guides us onward toward the town of Tran Dong Van, which is the capital here in the Đồng Văn district. And as we entered the town gate of Đồng Văn, we just had another international driver license check by the police, giving us the green light to continue our journey deeper into the far eastern parts of the Đồng Văn district. But first let us talk a bit about the town of Đồng Văn, which is undoubtedly the cultural and historical heart of the northern frontier of the Hajong region, as it is a highland settlement that was shaped by centuries of ethnic heritage, colonial influence, and modern tourism. Its old quarter, the French-era fort, and the vibrant Sunday market makes it a vital stop for every traveler exploring the amazingly beautiful Đồng Văn Karst Plateau. It is nestled deep here in the mountains of the Hajong province, and called Tran Dong Van or Dong Van Town, and has long served as a crossroads of cultures and a strategic outpost in Vietnam's far north. Before the French arrived, the area was home to the Hmong, the Thai, the Lo Lo, and the Dao communities, which are ethnic groups who cultivated maize on rocky slopes and traded goods across the border with China, as the way to the lowland of Vietnam was very cumbersome. The town's location is surrounded by limestone peaks and nestled in a natural basin which made it a natural gathering point for ethnic groups from all across the plateau. During the French colonial period, Dong Van gained new strategic importance, as in the early 20th century, the French established a military outpost and administrative center here to control the borderlands and monitoring the resistance movements. In 1925 they built the Don Chow, a fort and a lookout post that was perched above the town, and which still offers panoramic views of the surrounding karst landscape. At the same time, the French laid out the Old Quarter, a square lined with two-story stone houses featuring Enyang tiled roofs and wooden balconies. These buildings, some of them are nearly 200 years old and still remain intact as of today, although they were repurposed, and are now cafes, guest houses, and shops, and preserving the architectural legacy of the colonial era. After the independence, the town of Dong Van remained a very quiet, and a very remote and hard-to-reach place, but it was during this period that their cultural significance deepened a lot. The Sunday market became the most vibrant weekly event, and drawing ethnic minorities from across the region in traditional dress to trade livestock, textiles, and handmade goods. The market is not just commerce, but it is a living expression of the ethnic diversity and communal life here in the Ha Giang region. Today, Dong Van is a cornerstone of Ha Giang's blooming tourism industry, and it serves as a key overnight stop on the Ha Giang Loop, offering access to iconic sites like the Mã Pí Lèng Pass, the Lũng Cú flagpole, and the Dinh Vua Mio, which is the Hmong King's Palace we passed earlier this afternoon. Moreover, the town's Old Quarter, with its preserved colonial architecture and cozy lanterns-lit evenings, provides a rare blend of history and hospitality, where visitors can hike to the old French fort, sip coffee in century-old houses, or simply watch the morning mist roll over the rooftops and the karst hills which are surrounding the town. Now it is also noteworthy to mention the hidden past of the Ha Giang's off-limits legacy, which was long before the Ha Giang region became a bucket list destination for motorbike adventurers and cultural explorers, as it was a region which was shrouded in deep mystery and off-limits to foreign visitors and tightly controlled by the Vietnamese government. Its rugged terrain, ethnic diversity, and proximity to the Chinese border made it a strategic frontier zone, especially in the decades following the Sino-Vietnamese War of 1979. For years, foreigners were not allowed to enter Ha Giang without special permission, and even domestic travelers faced restrictions in certain communes. The government enforced a border permit system, requiring non-Vietnamese visitors to obtain official documents to access districts like Dong Van, Mio Vac, and Yên Minh. These permits, which are not required today, were part of a broader effort to protect national security, monitor cross-border activities, and preserve the cultural integrity of ethnic communities which are living here in remote highland villages. However, it was also this isolation which preserved the authenticity of Ha Giang. While other northern regions like Sapa developed rapidly under tourism pressure, the Ha Giang region remained untouched, with its stone-walled Hmong homes, terraced maize fields, and French colonial relics quietly enduring the passage of time. The Old Quarter of Dong Van, the Dinh Vua Mio Palace, and the Don Chow French fort became the silent witnesses to a layered history that few outsiders had ever seen until today. It was not until the early 2000s that the Ha Giang region began to open. Improved infrastructure, stabilized border relations, and growing interest in cultural tourism transformed the region into a living museum of Vietnam's highland heritage. Today, the Ha Giang Loop draws riders from around the world, but the legacy of restricted access still lingers in the quiet resilience of its people and the untouched beauty of its landscapes. For those like us, the crazy ones who venture beyond the main roads and into the lesser-known paths like the DT-182B Trail Road, the journey is more than scenic, as it is a passage through history over a Ha Giang that does not just offer us a beautiful rugged view. No, it offers intimate access to a region which once was hidden from the world, and now revealed in all its raw and amazing cultural depth, rarely seen anywhere else.
Okay.
We have just entered the Mio Vac region, where the landscape tightens and the road begins to trace the edges of the sheer vertical towering limestone cliffs. This district is known for its raw terrain and resilient communities, such as the Hmong, the Dao, and the Jie families who have lived here for generations and cultivating maize on the near vertical slopes. And as we ride deeper into the area, the air grows thinner and the valleys drop away, signaling our approach to the Mã Pí Lèng Pass, which is one of Vietnam's most dramatic mountain roads.
Unbelievable.
And here it is, clinging to the face of the towering karst cliff, the massive sign, "Welcome to Mio Vac," marks the gateway into Vietnam's most dramatic mountain passage. As we ascend toward the legendary Mã Pí Lèng Pass, the sign stands like a bold declaration and reminding all of us that we have entered a magical region that is carved by stone, resilience, and highland pride. The exact date of the Welcome to Mio Vac sign's erection on the karst cliff ahead of the Mã Pí Lèng Pass is not publicly documented in official sources. However, based on regional development timelines and tourism infrastructure upgrades, it was likely installed sometime in the early to the mid of 2010, when Hà Giang province began actively promoting the Hà Giang Loop and enhancing the visibility for key districts like the Mio Vac region. And as we can clearly see, the sign serves both as a symbolic gateway and as a photogenic landmark, which is undoubtedly marking the transition into one of Vietnam's most dramatic mountain regions. And here we go, just before our final ascent to the pass of the Mã Pí Lèng. This massive cave mouth is opening on our left side of the cliff. It is unmarked. Is it unexplored too? Who knows, however. This cave-like opening is looking quite dramatic. Though not listed on maps or tourist guides, this raw feature adds to the mystique of this region, hinting at the vast underground karst systems that is still shaping the rugged terrain of Hà Giang. Moreover, it is also a silent landmark, which is passed by many, but known by few, and a reminder that nature here still holds secrets beyond the road, which is not known to us. The final ascent to the Mã Pí Lèng Pass is really a masterclass in mountain engineering. It is narrow, exposed, and carved directly into the limestone cliffs of the Karst Mountains here in the northern parts of Vietnam. With sheer drops on one side and towering karsts on the other, it is a stretch of road that puts many Swiss alpine routes into the shadow, not for lack of beauty, but for the raw, untamed drama that defines every turn. Now we are reaching the crest of the modern Mã Pí Lèng Pass, which marks both a physical high point and a historical milestone. It is here where the road of happiness meets its most dramatic stretch, and where the monument honors the sacrifice and the resilience behind its creation. The modern section of the Mã Pí Lèng Pass includes a landscape which opens into a rest-stop area, a place with panoramic views of the Nho Quế River Gorge and the towering limestone peaks of the Đồng Văn Karst Plateau. This is not just a scenic viewpoint, but it is also a place of remembrance. The monument here stands as a tribute to the thousands of workers, many of them ethnic minority youth, who carved this road into the cliffs during the 1960s. In English it is known as the Road of Happiness, or in Vietnamese as the Con Duong Han Phuc, and it was built to connect the city of Ha Giang with its isolated districts here in the far-out region of the Đồng Văn and the Mio Vac frontiers. The original crest of the pass is located slightly higher and in a more rugged area. It was part of the first hand-carved route, which was a narrow and dangerous path that was etched into the mountainside with chisels, hammers, and sheer determination. Over 6 years, more than 1,300 volunteers from 16 ethnic groups worked without modern machinery, enduring harsh weather and perilous conditions to the extremes that a lot of us are unable to even imagine. Many workers lost their lives, but their endless effort transformed this region into a better one, and breaking centuries of isolation by opening access to education, healthcare, trade, and happiness. The modern crest of the Mã Pí Lèng Pass with its widened road and rest-stop facilities, was developed to accommodate the growing number of travelers drawn to the Ha Giang Loop. It offers a safer passage and a place to reflect, but it still hugs the same cliffs that challenged the original builders. And so, the granite stone monument here is not ornamental, but it is a symbol of unity, of sacrifice, and national pride, and reminds every one of us visitors that this road was not built for tourism, but for better connection and for pure survival. By conquering this crest and feeling the wind which is sweeping across the peaks, and the river hugged between the cliffs far below us, one really can feel the gravity of what was achieved here. And this certainly makes the Mã Pí Lèng Pass not just Vietnam's king of passes, but also a living testament to human resilience, one which has been carved into stone by those who truly believed into a better future. It is also interesting to know that before the Road of Happiness was built in the 1960s, the route from Đồng Văn to Mio Vac over the Mã Pí Lèng Pass was a nearly impassable trail which was only used by horses and on foot. And each journey was a super dangerous adventure as the travelers were navigating steep ascents, vertical abysses and dangerous trails on the mountain spine with jaw-dropping descents leading them back into the valley. And as there was no formal road, the region remained isolated from the rest of the Ha Giang province and the entire world for a long time. And this was making the area between Đồng Văn and Mio Vac one of the most remote and inaccessible regions in the whole of northern Vietnam. As the entire terrain is dominated by towering limestone karsts, deep gorges, and vertical cliffs, we can only imagine that it was making any form of transportation extremely difficult. The only way to travel between these two towns was on foot or horseback, by following narrow, treacherous paths which was scantily carved into the mountains by generations of ethnic minority communities. And as for the name of Mã Pí Lèng, which comes from the Hmong language, and means, from the horse's nose, which is a reference to the steepness of the pass. It was so severe that even horses had to stop and catch their breath, and the phrase literally reflects the physical challenge and the severe danger of the route before modern engineering transformed it into a navigable road, which was in 1959, when the Vietnamese government launched a massive infrastructure project to connect the city of Ha Giang with its northernmost districts, and it took them over 6 years for completion. Here we also have a good view of the Tu Sản Canyon, which is considered the deepest gorge in Vietnam, with an estimated vertical drop of over 800 to 1,000 meters from the top of the Mã Pí Lèng Pass and down to the Nho Quế River. It is a geological marvel which was carved by the tectonic forces and water erosion over millions of years and slices dramatically through the Đồng Văn Karst Plateau, revealing one of Southeast Asia's most striking natural formations. Its walls are nearly vertical in place, and the gorge stretches for several kilometers, creating a corridor of sheer rock that is both intimidating and awe-inspiring. This depth is not just visual, it is also geological and shaped by tectonic uplift and erosion in one of the most active karst regions here in Asia. Boat tours on the Nho Quế River now allow visitors to experience the canyon from below and navigating between cliffs that rise like vertical walls of a cathedral. Whether we see it from the Mã Pí Lèng Pass or from the Nho Quế riverbed, the Tu Sản Canyon is a testament to the raw power of nature, and a reminder of the stark isolation that once defined this remote frontier region. And now riding down from the Mã Pí Lèng Pass road into the Nho Quế River valley, we can clearly see that this is a descent like no other. The serpentine road coils tightly along the cliffs and reveals layer after layer of limestone peaks with emerald-colored slopes, each new curve offering us another perspective, and sometimes even a glimpse of the turquoise river far below, then sometimes a sheer drop that makes our breath catch, and reminding us that this is not just a road, but it is a moving balcony over one of Vietnam's most dramatic landscapes, where geology, history, and adrenaline meets us in every new turn we take. From this vantage point here the Tu Sản Canyon reveals even its fuller depth, an immense chasm which was carved by time and water, with cliffs that plunge nearly a kilometer to the Nho Quế River below and creating an unbelievable contrast between the jagged limestone walls and the serene turquoise flow, and making this gorge undoubtedly one of Vietnam's most unique and breathtaking natural spectacles. It seems like we cannot get enough of the Tu Sản Canyon, as we pull over once more, because the view demands our attention all over again. I think it is because the sheer cliffs, the winding Nho Quế River far below, the serpentinian road that curls along the cliff, and all this combined with the silence of the gorge, is really creating a moment that feels like both vast and intimate, as if the landscape itself is holding us and its breath. And as we begin our descent, we notice that the QL4C is not directly going into the Tu Sản Canyon, but along a parallel valley system that runs beside the Nho Quế River gorge. The road coils downward in tight serpentine turns, hugging the limestone cliffs, though the canyon itself lies offset to the left and deeper. The stretch which we are following now on the QL4C feels really like an ever-changing balcony ride above one of Vietnam's most dramatic landscapes, and traversing us yet again into a different terrain, and this time it is the parallel valley where the town of Tt Meo Vac is located. After a captivating ride along the ridge road of the Mã Pí Lèng Pass, and skirting the cliffside of the Tu Sản Canyon, we have safely returned to the valley floor. Our first sight, on our left, is the Pa Vi Hmong village. I have learned that this village was born from the resilience of the Hmong people, an ethnic group that has carved their identity into the stone folds of Ha Giang's northern frontier for centuries. Their story is one of continuous migration, relentless survival, and profound cultural preservation. The village is nestled here beneath the cliffs of the Mã Pí Lèng Pass and beside the winding Nho Quế River valley. Looking back in time, we can see that the Pa Vi Hmong village is more than a tourist stop. In fact, it is a living archive of the continuous Hmong heritage. I also have been told that the people here are descendants of the Hmong communities who migrated from southern China many centuries ago, and they found refuge here in the highlands of northern Vietnam. Their journey was not one of conquest, but of quiet endurance, as they settled in very remote valleys, and built their homes from earth and stone while cultivating maize and flax on steep terraced and stony slopes, where no one else would dare to plant their crops. The Hmong commune here in Pa Vi belong to a lineage that values independence and tradition. Their homes, the Trin Tuong houses, are made of packed earth with Enyang tiled roofs and are designed to withstand the harsh mountain climate. Their clothing is dyed with indigo and embroidered with symbolic patterns and tell stories of ancestry and deep belief, while their language, their customs, and their clan structures still remain intact despite generations of endless changes. Until recently, Pa Vi was a quiet village and only known to mostly the locals and a few adventurous travelers. But in 2016, a new chapter began, and with the support from cultural preservation initiatives, the village was transformed into a community-based tourism hub. The goal was not to commercialize the Hmong way of life, but to protect it by inviting visitors to learn, stay, and participate. Today, the Pa Vi Hmong village spans over 46,000 square meters and hosts around 30 households. Each homestay is built in the traditional style. Some houses are shaped like peach blossoms to honor the plateau's iconic flower, while the center place is laid out in a hexagonal shape at the heart of the village and used for traditional performance, while we visitors can try ourselves in linen weaving, and Hmong dish preparing, or simply sit by the fire, listen to their songs, watch their traditional performance and indulge in their Hmong delicacies. Moreover, their village gate is shaped like a Hmong trumpet and marks the entrance to this cultural enclave, which is not just a photo spot, but also a symbol of community voice and pride, that has turned its history into hospitality, its traditions into teaching, and its land into legacy. And as we are now near to our guest house for tonight, let us take a quick look at the route statistics from today's Yên Minh to Pa Vi via Kelia Panorama journey. After leaving Yên Minh, we conquered the Tham Mã Pass, a serpentine mountain crest with dramatic switchbacks and views reminiscent of the Swiss Alps. Then we enjoyed an early lunch at the picturesque Hmong village in Sung La. From there, we continued to the Kelia Panorama, a lesser-known but stunning viewpoint which is nestled between Sung La and Lũng Cú. After traversing the town of Dong Van, we then climbed the Mã Pí Lèng Pass, which is the crown jewel of the Hajong Loop, before descending into the Pa Vi commune, our final destination for today, and located just a short distance before the town of Mio Vac. Now, as the sun dips behind the limestone peaks and the final stretch of today's journey draws to a close, we arrive in the commune of Pa Vi and check in at the Pa Vi Lodge, a charming homestay which is just a breath away from the town of Mio Vac. This is not merely the end of our ride, it marks the beginning of our understanding of a district shaped by altitude, isolation, and extraordinary cultural depth. Pa Vi sits at the edge of the Mã Pí Lèng Pass, where cliffs plunge into the Nho Quế River basin and the road threads through some of the most dramatic terrain in northern Vietnam. Known as the King of Passes, this stretch is the crown jewel of the Hajong Loop. Here, the Hmong people have lived for generations, building earth and stone homes, farming steep slopes, and preserving a way of life that quietly resists modernity. It is part of the remote and culturally rich Mio Vac district, and therefore the commune of Pa Vi also shares deep ties with the town of Mio Vac itself, which is located nearby. The town comes alive every Sunday at its vibrant market, where the Hmong, the Dao, the Tai, the Lo Lo, and the Gia communities gather to trade, socialize, and celebrate their heritage. The district's ethnic mosaic is reflected in its music, textiles, clan traditions, and animist rituals which are woven into the daily life and echoed in the sounds of bamboo flutes and the iconic Ken reed pipe, an instrument which is used for ceremonial occasions. Mio Vac, which is recognized as part of the Đồng Văn Karst Plateau Global Geopark, is a region that tells stories not just of geology, but of migration, adaptation, and cultural resilience. In recent years, Pa Vi has become a model for community-based tourism through the Pa Vi Hmong Village, an initiative that welcomes visitors into traditional homes and customs without compromising authenticity. As we now settle into our guest house for tonight, surrounded by misty peaks and the quiet hum of village life, we are not merely resting, but we are bearing witness to a district that has turned isolation into identity. Mio Vac is not the end of the road, but a living archive of Highland pride and ethnic diversity. Yet even as the day closes, our journey is far from over. Tomorrow, the road calls again, as we will ride from Mio Vac, towards the town of Tt Bao Lac in the Chao Bang province, and passing through untouched valleys, ethnic villages, and the quieter southeastern reaches of the Hajong Loop. It will be a path of new discoveries where the landscape softens and the stories deepen. So, rest well, don't be left behind, and join the journey as the next chapter will begin at dawn.